Whenever I was growing up, I did not like church. I didn't like anything about it. I fought going every Sunday, every Wednesday. I think I felt like God was this mean old man that was sitting up on top of a mountain just waiting for me to do something wrong as a teenager, or teenager. And so as I grew older, I decided that, whenever I got older, I was not going to go to church. I wasn't going to make any of my kids go to church. So into my early 20s, there was, just a tremendous amount of stuff going on in my life. One of the things was, I lost a business that I had poured a lot of sweat and heartache into, and I also lost my grandfather, who was my best friend. Because God took those things away from me, I had developed a serious animosity towards God. It was probably one of the lower times in my life, and my wife asked me on that Sunday, would I go to church with her? And I finally told her that I would. When I came back to church, it was awesome. It was nothing. I had never had a church experience like that before, and I loved it. It felt like the pastor was speaking directly to me. So I was excited. My life did seem that it was turned around as I became involved in church. Things continued to get better. Around 2004, I began to have some problems with headaches, and instead of going to the doctor, the way I should, I began to use opiates to help me out with some of that, so I could still go to work. That very quickly consumed my life. Instead of taking 3 or 4 lower tabs a day, I was taking, after a year and a half, 50 a day, and I was hiding it from my wife, the people that love me, the people at my church. My wife found out, and when she found out, she is the one that stuck with me and helped me kick that habit. So for 6 months, we went through that together. I picked up another habit from hanging around the wrong people, which was crystal meth. My life just spiraled out of control. I stopped showing up for work, stopped coming home sometimes. My wife didn't know what was going on. My kids didn't know what was going on. I was embarrassed, didn't know how to ask for help, didn't know who to ask for help. My life continued to get worse and worse and worse. And then in 2007, I was arrested for possession of precursor chemicals and possession of methamphetamine. You got this beautiful wife and these beautiful kids that are looking up to you for you to take care of them, and then you realize that you've become something that you've always hated, and you wonder how's God gonna look at me now? When you're a drug addict, it takes you about 3 months to stop blaming everybody. And you realize it's not their fault, it's your fault. And then the next 3 months, you start feeling remorse for everything that you did. And so I remember one night in particular that I was laying in bed in prison and not knowing was I gonna have a wife or kids to come home to, or a business or anything. And I remember telling God that if He would help me get out of prison alive and to help me keep my wife and my children, that I would spend the rest of my life doing whatever He asked me to do. When I first came home, I can remember the first day that I got home. It was a Friday. Around lunchtime we got home, and my wife and kids asked me what I wanted to do, and I just told them I wanted to spend some time with them. Sunday was coming around, and my wife asked me, did I want to go to church? And I told her, absolutely. I'm not missing church for anything. I was terrified of what they were going to think or say or how they were going to respond to me. Because in my mind, I not only embarrassed my wife and my children by what I had done, but I embarrassed my church. So we pull up on Sunday morning. We were about 20 minutes early because I didn't want to be like the last person walking in. I figured if I got there early, maybe people wouldn't notice me or anything, and I could just kind of slide in, get a seat, sit down in the back, nobody would know. I got about halfway across the parking lot, and the door opened up really hard, and Tim Sumrall came out the door, and as soon as he saw me, he didn't run, but he walked as fast as he could, and when he got to me, he wrapped his arms around me and hugged my neck and said, "I am so glad to see you today." I was overwhelmed. People that didn't even know me or that barely knew me that went out of their way to let me know that they were glad that I was here. And so every Sunday, as a new group of people would come up and tell me how much they love me and want to talk to me, and they wanted to hear my story. And when I went home after every Sunday, it was overwhelming because I still did not understand how God could save me. Then I turned my back on him and shunned him again. And then here I come back to his house, and I understand that God's working through all these people. So for him to love me unconditionally through all these people, and they didn't have to do that. There's nothing that you can do that's too big for him to forgive. You're never too broken for him to fix you. You're never alone. And his love is enough. If you just let him in, you got to let him totally take control of your life and realize that nothing that anybody on this earth or anything on this earth, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is your relationship with God, and as long as you have that relationship and you turn to him, nothing else matters.